Hello Mario Kart fans, welcome into my channel. My name is Jer, and today I'm going to be ranking every single one of the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Tour courses from my least favorite to my favorite. So without any further ado, let's jump right on into this. Starting at number 14 is Madrid Drive. Now this is probably one of the worst rendered and conceptualized maps in the entire series. Look how terribly rendered this area is. It's like they didn't even take any time to adjust this area to make it look presentable for the Switch. It accomplishes almost nothing as a locale, in my opinion, and the most interesting parts are just far too short. A lot of the tour courses are a nice vignette of that area, and I don't feel like Madrid Drive really feels like a nice vignette of Madrid. I enjoy this quasi-strip mall with the greenhouse roofing. It looks really pretty, but again, it's way too short. This area here in the art gallery is quite possibly one of the nicest areas in the entire game. I always want this place to be so much bigger than what it actually is. My hope would be that whatever is in the next Mario Kart game has this much depth and thought put into it. Look at these paintings that you can't see unless you go into rear view mirror mode. There's so many details and elements that went into this, except for her, that I think should be really appreciated. Overall, my thoughts on Madrid Drive is that it feels like a course that was built for tour, and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe wasn't even a thought in mind. My overwhelming positive for this map is this stadium, as it's quite possibly one of my favorites of all of the tour courses. And the tour courses absolutely lose their shit to a stadium. I don't know why they all love stadiums so much, but we see it in multiple courses. And this is the most effective to me because of the way that the music changes, the soccer balls that are here that do have some interaction, and the crowd going wild as soon as you pass through the goalpost. This reaches number 14 because it's mediocre. In the number 13 spot is Athens Dash. Now this reaches the number 13 spot not because it's a terrible map, it's actually quite nice. There's just a lot of clutter, and I don't understand why it's so messy of a map. Actually, that's a lie. I do understand why it's a messy map. Because in Mario Kart Tour, there aren't really worries of obstacles. The game constantly keeps you going auto forward, and if you start to stray too much, it will pull you back on course. So any obstacles that you face, any junk in the road, isn't really a massive problem because your kart will naturally navigate around it. It might slow down a smidge, but it's not a genuine concern. Whereas in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, you do have to worry about things being in your way. These weird sharp turns and the way that the map sort of yanks you into weird directions, these are things that you have to adjust around, and if you don't have good map sense of this particular area, you're going to struggle. The first 6 or 7 times I performed on this map, I didn't have a great time. I enjoyed the tour version, again, because it auto-adjusts you. However, my favorite segment of this entire map is this view, and I wish that you got more of it. This view of Athens is such a beautiful recreation, and I really like the inspiration for Mario Kart. In the number 12 spot is New York Minute. I love this map quite a bit because I've been to New York before, and I think what they did as far as turning this into a vignette of the city is nice. My biggest problem is that it just feels tiny. It feels insignificant, and I almost wish that it was just a little bit longer in certain areas. Specifically in the Central Park, I would love to see more exploration of that. I like the overall aesthetic of the city, but kind of a similar problem that exists with Madrid Drive is that everything is kind of poorly rendered. You look at the windows and you look at some of the details along the side of the map, and it looks like nobody really got paid to actually make those look HD like every other map in the rest of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. One of the high points is the music is kind of a banger. I think this is one of the best musical compositions in probably the entirety of the tour courses, but I don't know if that's enough to save this. I must say, my least favorite part about this map is how short the final lap is. This is the shortest lap in the human history of all Mario Kart courses, I think. I've had farts that are longer than this last lap. And that's disappointing because the tempo picks up and you want it to have significance and it just doesn't. Speaking of short courses, in the number 11 spot is Tokyo Blur. This is so small. It's so tiny, and I can't even say that this is average sized because it's not. It's short and small. I do appreciate the iconography, and I appreciate the ideas behind it. And I think that's what this course has going for it. You get to see Nippon Budokan. You can see Tokyo Tower and Tokyo Skytree, Rainbow Bridge, the Asahi Beer Building. There's a lot of really great spots that were included here, and I think there were some nice ideas. It's just a really generic road that goes in a not super interesting route. Not to mention the fact that the music for this track was straight up ripped from Toad Circuit. Why is this so much higher than the others? Honestly, I don't know. I think it's because I appreciate what they did iconography-wise. It feels like there is a lot of history that's all shown. And if you're going to make a vignette style map, you might as well include all of its high points. And I can appreciate all those high points. In the number 10 spot is Berlin Byways. Now I gotta start off by saying that I'm not the most massive fan of car levels and racing along other cars. What's nice about Mario Kart Tour is that none of the cars on the road have collision. So if you run into them, they're just another obstacle. And that's kind of what I don't like about the car levels, is that you will lose coins and spin out. I understand, but I don't like it. Don't roast me for it. Now, what I do enjoy about this track is the music. I think it's really fun. It kind of makes me feel hyped. I think what this map does a great job at is having really stellar visuals that even if some areas aren't really well rendered, it kind of cheats by having a lot of greenery. And you can forgive a lot of visual errors when you see a lot of trees and grass. It does look like somebody took their time making sure that everything was shaded properly, because you even get some glimmers of light casting off of the windows, off of the trees, off of the cars. So it doesn't just feel like this static, flat place like some of the previous ones did. I also really appreciate the final lap. It's one of my favorite final laps of all of the tours. I especially like this graffiti area. The visuals of it are just so pleasant to me. Last thing that I appreciate about this map is its length. It feels like it's got a good amount of pacing in each one of the laps. It feels like it actually has some weight to it. This is an overall pretty solid map. Moving into the number 9 slot is Paris Promenade. And overall, my thoughts on this map are that it's pleasant. I really appreciate the music. Something about it feels very like French stereotypical. And I don't know how French people feel about that, but I personally think it's really cute. The overall layout of the map feels like a nice sunny day right around sunset, and you're about to go get some lunch at a cafe, maybe grab an afternoon coffee, and get ready to walk around Paris as it's getting to be dark. And I like that. It's pleasant. It feels like a nice day out. Does that make a good course? Not really. But what I appreciate about this particular map is that it feels like that. And I think a tour course should be evocative of some type of emotion, whether that be just feeling like you're going on a romp in the middle of Paris. I love the elements of the balloons floating in the sky. I like the way that the map turns itself around on the third lap and that you get to explore from the opposite side, proving once again that each one of these courses very easily could be in reverse mode, but for whatever reason, they just never added that mode into the game. In the number 8 spot is Amsterdam Drift. I love this course for a lot of different reasons, but one of them is the music. This music gets me absolutely pumped, like no other course does. I enjoy the way that they laid this out. I like all the windmills that you can see out on the distance. It makes it really feel like you're in this area. And in a sort of broad way, it's like what I wanted them to do with a lot of these other courses that I do feel like Tokyo did a good job at, but just kind of flubbed a little bit on the execution. And that's creating these little vignettes that make you feel like you're actually in this space. I love the underwater segment. I wish that it was a little bit longer, and that's kind of my constant critique, is that nothing feels long enough. You know what else needs to be longer is the tulip segment, because I love that area so much. It's really visually pleasant, and I wish that we got to go through it a couple more times. All the colors are really nice to look at. I feel like you get a lot of visual dissonance through the entire map, where you get rainbow segments, and then you get this super colorful tulip segment. You get all the reds that are in the bricks, juxtaposition with this very dark concrete on the road. Overall, this is a stunning map because of its visuals. In the number 7 slot is Bangkok Rush. I love that this map is set right at sunset. The music is fine. I don't think that this map has one of the best compositions in the world as far as its music is concerned, but what I enjoy are the visuals, and I enjoy the exploration of each area. It feels like you get to explore each one of these segments just enough. I love the market stalls, and I think that even though these have the same rendering problem that Madrid had, somehow I can forgive it because everything else visually looks nice. I know it's weird to roast one map and then not to roast this one. I am absolutely not forgiving the fact that those vegetables were not rendered properly. And a lot of these buildings were not rendered properly either. But I love this segment right at the bridge where you're passing over it and the fireworks are happening in front of you. That sort of elevates this to a different place. It has an element of excitement, and a lot can be forgiving if you can somehow manage to be exciting. One of my favorite segments is the garage. I love being able to swirl up to the top and then come right back down into the market stalls. Another thing I enjoy is the multiple levels of this map, and I am a sucker for multiple levels on a map. In the number 6 slot is Vancouver Velocity. I really like a night map, and I like a night map that feels peaceful. Another thing I really enjoy is just the overall wintry visuals of this map. I like that you can see these mountains off in the distance, these snow-capped trees. Everything transports you into a fantastical place that you weren't in before, or at least I wasn't in before. I love this bridge. This is my favorite place. I want this bridge to be 100 miles long because I just want to drive on it. I like the way that the lights string down, and I like the soundscape as your wheels hit the wood. I also really enjoy these neon buildings. I feel like it adds some visual excitement. And that's what I want from a map. I want to be stimulated in multiple ways, not just with the music, which I think is very nice here, but I want to be visually stimulated too while going through these courses. And I think this has enough city life, enough nature life, enough traversing through iconic places like the stadium by this lake that it makes you really feel like you're a part of this experience. And as far as the stadium is concerned, who doesn't like an ice rink visually? Even if you don't like ice skating, an ice stadium is cute. I love seeing the Shy Guys skating around the center pedestal, and I gotta say, I am such a fan of Shy Guys. I turn up to them every time that I see them. In the number 5 spot is the London Loop. Maybe I'm just a dirty, uncultured American, but what I really enjoy about this map are these roundabouts that are completely non-functional. Where I'm from, we don't really have a lot of roundabouts, so seeing this as something I can interact with in a game is quite fun and feels very London coded. I love these little market areas. It again transports me to a place that I wasn't before. The way that this map twists and turns is really fun. I think there's a lot of great opportunities for drifting, and it feels like a course that was genuinely thought of to be exciting and fun, and not only visually stimulating, but also having a great musical composition. I like the way that the chain chomps operate on this map. At first, they're just a visual thing, and then they become a hindrance in lap 3. And I think that's great. This genuinely feels like a course that was meant to be raced on, not something that was made just because they needed to create another world course. It feels like it carries some significance to it. And I absolutely adore the length of this map. I think it's the perfect size, and I wish that every map was about this length. In the number 4 slot is Los Angeles Laps, and what I love about this map is how they managed to make Los Angeles look so lovely and endearing, because I have been to Los Angeles many a time, and it smells like pee everywhere. Doesn't matter if you're at the beach, if you're at the mall, if you're at the convention center, everything smells like pee. And this map looks like it doesn't smell like pee. I like the exploration of Los Angeles, because Los Angeles really is a massive place. It covers so much. I like that you get to see the beach, you get to see the shops, you get to see the city, and then you're in an oil field. It is perfectly indicative of this area, and it's one of those times where I feel like they really got it right with creating a vignette style map. I even like that they included this bike lane. One of my absolute favorite parts about this map, though, is the musical composition. It absolutely brings me joy to no end. However, one of my lower marks is the stadium feels like it might as well not be there. It's such a short segment and you don't really interact with it. It's more just there to remind you that this stadium is important to Angelinos, probably. I even like the way that the road changes and you get to see different kinds of brick. It feels well thought out, and that's what I enjoy about Los Angeles Labs. In the number 3 spot is Singapore Speedway, and this I had a really hard time deciding if it was going to be in the slot 2 or slot 1 because I love this map so much. I cannot express to you how much joy this map brings me every time I'm brought to it. I love that this is a night map that doesn't have chaos going on, and a lot of night maps, especially ones that are very visually stimulating with a lot of neons and colors and sounds, tend to be a little bit chaotic. I specifically am thinking about Moonview. This map is just a really beautiful neon-centric map with a lot of great visuals, a lot of stimulating routes to take. I especially love the Chinatown segment. I think it's so beautiful, and I love that the music changes slightly. Nothing makes me more happy than when music adjusts to where you're at. Dolphin Shoals does that the best, and I think this map does it the second best. I like that you get full views of each one of these segments. This area that you get to pass through with the water is not the first time you get to see that. And I enjoy the sort of shake-up of this final lap where you're on these speed boost areas. It makes for a fun experience because you're not just racing on the same ground throughout the entire track. And of course, more views of that water, which I always want more of. If you're gonna show me something, show me it multiple times. Don't show me it once. Our final view of the night market makes me so happy right before you're about to finish. It feels like this course has a lot of significance, and it feels like someone really put a lot of love into building this and making sure it translated well into Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. In the number 2 spot is Sydney Sprint. I love this track music so much. This is quite possibly one of my favorite track compositions of the entire game. Whoever created this really put their whole Mario Kart into making this. It's so fun and really feels jazzy and exciting and makes you get hyped for the course. I love the bridge, and I love that the passengers on the metro throw coins at you. And I wish that they did what they do in Mario Kart Tour, which is throw mushrooms and bananas as well. That would make it feel a little bit more impactful. I know that this is a pretty generic city, and as you're driving through it, you might think, why is this in the number 2 spot? And I think it's because of how clean it all looks. It was a track that I think got a lot of love put into it as it was being designed and ported over to the Switch. I think they were really intentional with how you could utilize shortcuts that you wouldn't really be able to do in Mario Kart Tour because of the way that it propels you forward and doesn't let you stray off course. There's a lot of openness, so you can really be competitive, but then it has moments of tightness where you really don't have an option but to fight for your life. I enjoy the tight turns that exist on this map, but it doesn't feel like they're super frequent, that you get cucked as much as you do on Athens. In Athens, you have to be such a decisive driver, and here you can relax and then have moments of tension, and I think that's what makes this a nice map. One of my favorite things is being able to go back through this amusement park area one last time and see an opposite view. I've always said that one of my favorite things about Sydney Sprint is that it feels like actual tourism as you are exploring a city. You're gonna go back through and visit certain areas multiple times to try and catch glimpses of things you missed before. And this feels like it captures that vibe, that essence of exploring a city you've never been to before. In the number 1 slot is Rome Avanti, and I'm gonna be completely honest, I had such a hard time deciding where this was gonna go. But ultimately, right before I started recording this is when I decided to swap Rome into the number 1 spot. And I'm gonna tell you why right now. This is a super peaceful map. Even down to the musical composition, this track doesn't offer a lot of chaos. And it's the same thing I said about Singapore. This map is really peaceful. This map is pleasant. It feels, again, much like tourism, where you're exploring a city for the first time and getting different views of the area, catching sights you didn't see before. And I love the way that this map circles on itself so many different times. I like that it doesn't rely on gimmicks, like having cars drive all over the road, or having some crazy thwomp run into you, or relying on a lot of neon colors to stimulate you visually. It just exists on its own and is beautiful. My only critique is I wish that this water segment was bigger because they put so much work into it and would have loved to have seen that just a little bit more. Overall, this is a beautiful course, and I think of the tour tracks, this is one that felt like it was designed with Mario Kart 8 in mind. This track came out after they already started doing the DLC, where they started porting over the courses from Mario Kart Tour. Something like Athens and something like Madrid feel like they were built with Tour first in mind, whereas Rome Avanti feels like it was built with Mario Kart 8 in mind, with Tour being a background idea. Maybe they were already planning on doing something like this for the DLC, and someone at Nintendo said, hey, we can put this in Tour as well, so let's just clean it up a little bit, let's grunge it up for the Tour version, and we can stick it in there too. It, again, feels like something that was built with Mario Kart 8 in mind first. And with that, that has been every single Mario Kart Tour course ranked from 14 to number 1. What are your top favorite courses? And if you like gaming content, I post quite a bit here on this channel, with a lot of Drag Race also sprinkled in. See you on the flip, gamers! Hey, thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, make sure to click that like button. And if you want to see more, hit subscribe. Goodbye!